Hello everyone. Today we are going back to the 19th century to a case that gripped Scotland. And looking at the case now, nearly 175 years on, it could be argued that this may be Scotland's most famous case. So sit back and let's open the case file. Madeline Smith was born on March the 29th, 1835, and was the eldest child of an upper middle class family who lived in Glasgow, Scotland. Her father, James Smith, was an architect, and her mother, Janet, was the daughter of a leading neoclassical architect. The family lived at number 7 Blytheswood Square, Glasgow, and also had a country property near Helensburgh. Madeline was educated from an early age and was well accustomed to how to behave in Victorian society. As a young teenager, Madeline attended Mrs. Alan Gordon's Academy for Young Ladies, where she learnt proper manners, how to play the piano, how to dance, and very importantly, how to act in society. When she was 18 years old, Madeline returned to Glasgow. It was now the summer of 1853. Pierre Emile L'Angelaire was born the first of 5 children to French parents. Born in the Channel Islands in April 1823, his family ran a seed merchant business, and it was very successful but restricted to French speakers. As the family had a poor level of English, Emile's father wanted to attract the business of wealthy English visitors who visited the island, so Emile was sent to be the apprentice of a seed business that worked mainly in English. Here he became very fluent in the language. In 1842, Emile was approached by Sir Francis Mackenzie from Scotland to work on his Scottish estates. Emile took the position and went to work in the Scottish capital city of Edinburgh. Later, he left the position and moved to Glasgow, where he took a job as a warehouse clerk. It is not known when Emile first saw Madeline, but it was in Glasgow. It was probably early in 1855. Emile was instantly attracted to her, so he asked a mutual friend if he could be introduced. Madeline, the daughter of one of the most prominent families in Glasgow, met Emile, who was a warehouse clerk. Even though Madeline was well aware that a warehouse clerk would be an unacceptable companion for a young lady from a prominent Glasgow family, Madeline was attracted to Emile, and not long after their initial meeting, they started exchanging letters. The letters continued between them, and they met on many occasions in the street or at nearby shops. Soon, however, Madeline's father heard about the friendship and demanded that it stop. Madeline seemed to really have feelings for Emile, but reluctantly wrote to him, ending their friendship. Emile, however, was not going to let this stop him seeing Madeline, so continued to write to her, and a friend of the couple, Miss Mary Perry, allowed them to meet secretly in her house. Madeline was now happy to continue the relationship with Emile, and the correspondence and meetings continued. As time went on, their romance intensified, and although they were keeping their relationship from Madeline's friend and family, they secretly got engaged. Emile kept all of Madeline's letters, but he insisted that Madeline burn the letters that he sent to her. They continued to meet at Mrs. Perry's and occasionally met late at night at Madeline's house when her family were asleep. Madeline's parents, not knowing that the relationship with Emile had continued, were looking for a suitable husband for her. They decided the best match would be William Minnock, a wealthy merchant and neighbour of the Smiths. In September 1856, William Minnock stayed with the Smith family at their summer house on the Clyde, and he spent much time with Madeline. Madeline was aware that he would be a more acceptable match for her, and he could provide her with a better standard of living than Emil. William was well known in Glasgow to society, and in January 1857, Madeline and William were officially engaged. Madeline was, however, still secretly engaged to Emil. Madeline wrote to Emil to tell him that she would not visit him anymore, as her feelings towards him had changed. She did not inform him that she was now engaged to William. She also asked he return all the letters she had sent to him and deliver them to her housemaid. Madeline also wrote, but she shall return the letters he wrote to her the following day via the maid. Emil did not oblige to her request. Madeline was now getting a bit more desperate, so wrote to Emil again, and by now Emil had heard rumours of her engagement to William Minnock, and he demanded to know if they were true. She said it was not, and asked again for the return of the letters. Emil again refused, saying that he was planning instead to show the letters to Madeline's father. Madeline wrote 2 more letters to Emil, begging him not to expose their past love, as it would bring great shame on her. In the second letter, she asked him to meet her again secretly. It was now February and March of 1857. The police and the courts would later pick over the events of the next several weeks in minute detail. At a supper with Miss Perry on February the 17th, Emil said that he had plans to meet Madeline the night of the 19th. It is not known whether the two did meet on the 19th, but later that night, Emil suffered violent stomach pains. Fortunately, he recovered by the following morning. On Saturday the 21st, Madeline went to a local chemist and purchased a small amount of arsenic, which she said would be used to kill rats. As required by law, she signed the poison book at the time of purchase. At the time, arsenic was sold with colouring, such as soot or indigo mixed into it. This was to keep it from being confused with flour or sugar or other food substances. That night, Emil went out without letting his landlady or anyone else know where he was going. When he returned to his lodgings early in the morning of February the 22nd, he was suffering with severe stomach pains, this time leaving him bedridden for 8 days. On March the 6th, Madeline again went to the chemist and bought more arsenic. On March the 9th, Emil had tea with Miss Perry, and he said, as Perry would later testify, "I cannot think why I was so unwell after getting that coffee and chocolate from her." Perry understood the "her" to mean Madeline. Emil then told Perry that he was so in love with Madeline that if she were to poison me, I would forgive her. Perry asked what possible reason Madeline would have for such an action. "I don't know that," Emil replied. "Perhaps she might not be sorry to be rid of me." On March the 17th, Madeline and her family returned from a trip, and the following day, Madeline made a third purchase of arsenic. Then, on the 19th, Emil went on a weekend vacation to the Bridge of Allen, which is about 30 miles north of Glasgow. He returned unexpectedly the evening of March the 22nd, telling his landlady that he had received a letter calling him back, but he would return to Bridge of Allen the following day. He asked for the key to the front door, as he expected to be out late, but did not specify his destination or plans for the evening. After midnight, early in the morning of the 23rd, his landlady awoke to a commotion at the front door and found Emil outside and doubled up in pain. He died about 10 hours later. The letter that called him back was found in his pocket after his death and was from Madeline. Within the next few days, more of Madeline's letters were found in Emil's room, and in his office. Madeline, however, said nothing regarding the mysterious death, but was becoming the source of much local gossip. Thursday morning, March the 26th, Madeline's sister Janet awoke to find her eldest sister gone from the bed they shared, and gone from their room, and gone from the entire house. William Minnock stopped by the Smith home later that Thursday morning to pay a call on his intended bride. Finding the family and servants in panic and hearing that Madeline had gone missing, he suggested that she might have gone to the Smith summer house on the Clyde. The family agreed that this was possible, and William proposed that he and Madeline's brother Jack travelled to the summer house, the rest of the family remaining at home in case she returned. William and Jack took the next train from Glasgow to Greenock, and there caught a steamer headed for Helensburgh. Moving through the crowds of people on the boat, they found Madeline sitting calmly and looking out at the water. She had boarded the boat earlier in Glasgow and showed no particular surprise at seeing the two of them. Sitting down next to her, William gently asked her why she fled and caused such worry to her family and friends. She began to respond, but William told her to wait, as there were too many people about who might overhear. Once in the privacy of the large summer house, William asked again for the reason behind her disappearance. Madeline told him she was afraid her parents would be very upset at what she had done, and promised to tell him more later on. On March the 31st, based on the stacks of letters found at Emil's lodgings and office, Madeline was arrested. She gave a lengthy statement stating that she had last seen Emil 3 weeks previous to his death. She did not deny that they had been lovers, that she had written letters to him, or that they had secretly discussed marriage. Neither did she deny making 3 purchases of arsenic in the previous month. She had mixed the arsenic with water and washed her arms and face with it, a cosmetic use she had learned while at school. She had lied to the chemist about the arsenic's use. She said that she was too self-conscious to tell the chemist that it was for her complexion. She said she had never given Emil arsenic or anything else. The case became big news in Scotland, so the trial was moved from Glasgow to the Scottish capital, Edinburgh, and began on June the 30th, 1857. Madeline was represented by a team including one of the greatest legal minds of the time, John Inglis. Due to the court's rules, Madeline was not allowed to take the stand in her own defence, but had to rely solely on her legal counsel and on her deposition. During the trial, people swarmed the courthouse to catch a glimpse of Madeline, and the crowds lined the streets every night as her carriage took her back to the East Jail of Edinburgh. The newspapers carried detailed descriptions of every aspect of the trial, and the proceedings became the chief topic of conversation throughout Scotland. The prosecution argued for the court to omit all of Madeline's letters and all of Emil's papers in evidence. Madeline's defence argued that her letters could be presented, but that a diary found in his room should not be admitted into evidence. The prosecution stated that the diary should be omitted as it contained notations that possibly indicated that Emil had seen Madeline right before the first and second attacks of his stomach illness. But with the author of the diary now dead, the defence argued that the written entries could not be questioned or properly cross-examined. The arguments were very persuasive on both sides, but decisively the defence won and the diary was withheld from the jury. The trial went on for 9 days, and many witnesses, including Madeline's sister Janet, who testified that she did not recall Madeline ever getting out of the bed the night of March 22nd, and William Minnock, who had quickly withdrawn his marriage proposal, took the stand. The prosecution called witnesses to testify about the contradictions in Madeline's story, but the defence countered with experts who discussed the cosmetic use of arsenic, and they called witnesses who claimed Emile had made statements to them regarding several prior suicide attempts. Madeline showed remarkable calmness and poise during the trial, refusing food and water while in court, but keeping a small jar of smelling salts, which she never had to use. She followed the questioning of witnesses closely and only showed discomfort when the text of some of her letters to Emile was read out. The prosecution argued that Madeline had already lied at least once about the real purpose of the arsenic, and stated that Emile's refusal to return her letters and end the affair was motive enough for killing him. The defence pointed out that Emile had his first attack 2 days before Madeline's first recorded purchase of arsenic. The prosecution and the defence both put forward very strong cases, but due mainly to the fact that it could not be shown that Madeline and Emile had actually seen each other before any of his 3 attacks, the jury deliberated for only 30 minutes, and on July the 9th they reached a verdict of not proven. Not proven is a unique verdict in Scotland that signifies that the accused was not found innocent, but the prosecution had not made a strong enough case to convict. Madeline went free that afternoon and returned to her family home. What actually happened on the night of March 23rd, 1857 will never be known. Many theories about the crime were prevalent in newspapers at the time, and for many months afterwards. The newspaper The Scotsman wrote, "Madeline Smith is either the most fortunate of criminals or the most unfortunate of women." The narrative of the trial followed Madeline, so she eventually decided to leave Scotland. Madeline went to London and in July 1861 married George Wardle, a draftsman and the business manager of the artist William Morris. She continued to remain silent about the trial and her accused crime, although newspapers and curiosity seekers hounded her. After many years of marriage and 2 children, Madeline and George separated. After her divorce, what happened to Madeline is not known. Many say she went to France, others to Australia. The most widely accepted theory is that she went to New York City and changed her name to Lena Wardle Sheehy. Mrs. Sheehy died in 1928, but her death certificate states that she would have been 30 years younger than Madeline would have been on her death. So the mystery of whatever happened to Madeline Smith has never been proved. Wherever and whenever Madeline passed away, she took whatever she knew about Emile's death with her to her grave. Hello everyone, and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you hit the bell icon, you can stay in touch with notifications of the next brief case.